Alright guys, buckle up, because today we're diving deep into Argentina. And let me tell you, the situation is not just dire, it's unraveling like a slow-motion train wreck in the global economy. The last time we checked in on Argentina, we were talking about this grand idea of dollarization. That's right, replacing the Argentine peso with the US dollar. President Javier Milei, the chainsaw-wielding economist who promised to slash Argentina's bloated government and shock the system back into life, still insists this is the way forward. But here's the problem, the markets aren't buying it. Because let's be honest, dumping your national currency and adopting the US dollar isn't just radical. It's financial surgery without anesthesia, and Argentina's economy isn't ready for it. See, Argentina still owes the IMF tens of billions of dollars, debt that must be repaid in US currency, not pesos. And to scrape together those payments, Argentina's central bank has had to buy nearly $1 billion worth of dollars in just the past 30 days. That right there shows you the hole Argentina is in. They simply aren't generating enough dollars through exports. Add to this another complication, Trump's 10% tariffs. Yes, even though Argentina isn't China, Trump's tariffs are slamming them hard. Why? Because tariffs don't just target one country. They ripple across global trade flows, hammering fragile economies like Argentina's. Inflation, meanwhile, is still burning a hole in every Argentine's pocket, over 33% per year. Think about that. If your money sits in the bank for a year, a third of its value evaporates. So what do Argentines do? They scramble to buy dollars. And what happens when everyone is rushing to buy dollars? The peso collapses even further. This is how desperate things have gotten. Argentina is a food-exporting giant, grain, beef, soybeans, you name it. And to encourage more exports, Milei has slashed export duties. Corn duties from 12% down to 9.5%, soybeans down 1.5%, beef taxes cut as well. On the surface, this sounds smart. Stimulate exports, earn more dollars, right? But here's the catch. By cutting duties, the government collects less revenue. And if you're broke and desperate for dollars, every lost cent matters. So Argentina is caught in a cruel paradox. The government needs more dollars, but the policies meant to generate exports are draining its coffers. Meanwhile, the central bank is stuck defending the peso. Over just 3 days, they burned through more than $1 billion of their US reserves. That's 5% of their entire foreign currency stockpile, gone in 72 hours. That's the financial equivalent of pouring water on a raging inferno with a paper cup. This is why full dollarization is looking more like a fantasy than a plan. The truth is, most Argentines still use the peso for everyday life. And what really controls the strength of a currency isn't wishful thinking. It's the health of the economy, the confidence of investors, and the stability of government reforms. Right now, Argentina is failing on all three. Investors are bailing. Argentine bonds are collapsing. Yields that were once just 5% above US Treasuries have skyrocketed to now. That sounds attractive on paper. Who wouldn't want 15%? But here's the problem. If your currency falls 30%, that juicy yield is meaningless. It's like winning a race while the ground crumbles beneath your feet. And this is the nightmare every emerging market fears. As the peso falls, investors flee. As investors flee, borrowing costs explode. And when borrowing costs explode, the IMF bailout cycle begins all over again. So let's get real. The key to saving Argentina isn't dollarization, it's exports. But here's the twist. Argentina doesn't even need the US dollar to make trade work. Look at the data. Argentine corn mostly goes to Vietnam, Peru, and Malaysia. Argentine soybeans? China buys over 3 million tons in just 6 months. The US? Barely registers in Argentina's top export markets. That means Milei doesn't need to dollarize to survive. Trade can happen in local currencies or swaps. The only real role for dollars is in central bank reserves. Flooding Argentina's streets with greenbacks isn't just unnecessary, it's suicidal. Here's where it gets interesting. Despite his pro-US, anti-China rhetoric, Milei is running back to Beijing. Why? Because China is the only lifeline that can provide Argentina with breathing room. Back in April, Argentina renewed a $5 billion currency swap line with China. That's not pocket change. That's the kind of cash that keeps imports flowing and the lights on. And let's not forget, Argentina is now leaning toward BRICS, where trade isn't dominated by dollars but by local and alternative currencies. And China isn't just offering swaps, they're offering factories, jobs, and investments. BYD, the Chinese EV giant, has already registered as a car maker in Argentina. If they build an EV factory there, Argentina could pivot from just exporting beef and beans to exporting technology and cars. And guess what currency those trades won't be in? Dollars. But let's widen the lens. Argentina's future isn't just about itself, it's about where the next tidal wave of money flows globally. And here's a staggering number. Chinese households are sitting on $23 trillion in savings. That's not government reserves, that's ordinary people's money sitting idle. Now ask yourself, where does this tsunami of cash go next? Property in China? Dead for the next decade. Prices are still down 20–30%. Bonds? 10-year yields at just 1.8%. Terrible for investors. Bank accounts? A pathetic 1.3% return. So Chinese savers are desperate for alternatives. Some of it will go into Chinese stocks. The CSI has already surged 25% this year. But here's the big play. Gold. If even a fraction of that $23 trillion flows into gold, we're looking at prices soaring well past $3,700 an ounce. China's demand for gold is relentless. People there don't care about the price. They understand currency debasement. Since 2021, they've kept buying gold, whether it was $1,800, $2,500, or $3,500. They just keep stacking. And while Argentina flirts with dollarization and China hoards gold, another shift is quietly rewriting the future of global power: the migration of industry from the west to the east. A group of venture capitalists recently toured China. They visited factories, startups, and tech hubs. Their conclusion? Competing with China in critical industries like batteries and clean energy is pointless.
When it comes to battery manufacturing in the West, it's game over.
Let that sink in. These aren't journalists, these aren't politicians, these are professional investors who put money where their mouth is, and they're betting against the West. Why? Because China controls the supply chains, period. 80% of solar panels are made in China, 60% of turbines are Chinese, 70% of EVs, and 75% of batteries come out of Chinese factories, and they're cheaper, much cheaper. Solar panels in China cost 8 cents per watt. In the US, around 50 cents per watt. So here's the big picture. Argentina's dollarization fantasy is crumbling, the peso is stuck in a doom loop, China is emerging as Argentina's lifeline, and globally, industry, capital, and technology are tilting eastward. Which leaves us with the million-dollar question: is Argentina just the canary in the coal mine? A warning sign of what happens when a nation clings to the dollar while the rest of the world begins moving away from it? Because let's face it, if China's $23 trillion in savings shifts into stocks, gold, and new industries, and if countries like Argentina tie themselves to that orbit, the US dollar's grip weakens even further, and that changes everything. So guys, what do you think? Can Argentina really dollarize its economy, or is this just a political stunt doomed to fail? Will China step in as Argentina's savior? And more importantly, are we watching the beginning of the end for Western dominance in clean energy, manufacturing, and global trade? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. I'm really curious to hear your perspective. And before you go, don't forget, hit that like button, smash the subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss any of our deep dives into the stories the mainstream refuses to cover. And if you found this breakdown valuable, share it with a friend. Because the more people understand what's really happening, the harder it becomes for the elites to spin their narratives. Stay safe, stay sharp, and I'll catch you in the next one.